So, you're seeing a patient in the office who has increasing dyspnea on exertion. And 2 years ago, he had a TEE and a Cath, and the Cath report shows moderate MS, valve area 2.2, and you'd like to confirm that that data was solid and look into the hemodynamics a bit more. So here's the hemodynamic workstation in the Cath lab. And think about what you need to be able to figure out the severity of mitral stenosis in the Cath lab. You see over here all these calculation thingies under the mitral valve. To get this valve area of 2.2, data was used including the heart rate, this millisecond thing, which is the diastolic filling period, the mean gradient, and then it also gives you a peak-to-peak. We don't use that for mitral stenosis. And IND is the indexed valve area, which we also don't use for mitral stenosis. In addition to having a gradient, you also need the flow through the valve. So you need to have a cardiac output. And let's remember how we get our numbers in the Cath lab for these things. Shown here are his pressure tracings. Yellow is the left ventricle with a pigtail in the left ventricle, and the red is our other needed pressure, which is going to be left atrial, so you can see a LVLA gradient. Instead of left atrium, we can substitute a wedge pressure with some caveats. Wedge pressure may be falsely elevated compared to left atrial pressure when severe pulmonary hypertension is present. And wedge pressure is a bit delayed compared to left atrial pressure. Shown in white is the gradient in diastole between the LA and LV. The duration of this gradient from start to finish is called the diastolic filling period. And you could see, since he's paced and has a heart rate of around 60, you could estimate that this is somewhere around a third of that, 300 milliseconds or so in duration. That's over here what the MS is. That's the diastolic filling period. So you know the rate at which all the stroke volume fills the ventricle during diastole. Next, we're going to see how to select the appropriate best hemodynamic waveforms and data to get the correct calculation of the valve area. So in the workstation, we're going to go to hemodynamics and choose the condition. So for example, did you record it at rest, or did we do some kind of fluid challenge or other procedure? We have to pick the right condition where we recorded the data. And we have the calculation screen up here, and you've got to decide which is the correct flow through the valve, and that means choosing the correct cardiac output. So in most cases, thermal dilution is the optimal measurement for the most accurate stroke volume through the valve in question. Fick refers to generally the assumed Fick based on the estimated oxygen consumption, and that has been studied extensively and is not accurate enough to give you an accurate valve area. Only a ballpark estimation, unless you get the metabolic cart, bring it down and do a 3-minute recording and get the actual, this ACTO2, plug that in, and that would be the measured Fick, which is the gold standard. So we need to make sure that that button here is changed to highlight the thermal. The default is not thermal. So we change that and watch the valve area. It says 2.2, but if we choose the correct cardiac output, what happens? Oh, it changed. Well, now it's 1.9 and not 2.2. And that could tip you over in the mitral world from progressive to more severe. So choosing the output has to be done every time on every case because it always defaults to the wrong one, which is the assumed Fick. So you want thermal dilution. All right, next we're going to choose which gradient, because if you had multiple samples, which was the right one. Right now we only have one to choose from, so we want to take a good look at that hemodynamic data that was recorded and see if there are any well-chosen beats or better samples. So we're going to go here to the wave review and go down and look at the one, and we see there is only one listing here with a gradient, wedge and LV, so we're going to have to start there. So notice here that we have a bunch of beats. The gradients are in white, and all these are included in this calculation to give us this 1.93. So we have the right cardiac output, but you can see here we're including garbage beats with a bunch of noise. So probably not the best choice of beats to use. We're going to have to click and drag and select the noise-free beats like this. So when we click and drag, we now have chosen 3 beats, and we want them to be in a regular rhythm without respiratory variation or other causes of artifact. Now we have 3 good beats to analyze, and our mean gradient is now 10.5, and the valve area has gotten a little tighter. Then we have to look at the next step, which is making sure that we have compensated for the delay in the mitral valve wedge recording. I'm going to change the paper speed, spread it out so we can see things better. Notice where the peak of the V wave is. It's after the LV pressure drop. The V wave is supposed to come down as the LV relaxes at the same time if you look at the left atrial pressure. So the wedge has a big delay in it. Through research, people have compared LA and wedge in the same patient and found that you have to shift the curves so this V wave peak happens right on top of the yellow LV line, and that gets you your optimal LV-LA gradient. So we're going to shift that. So to do that, we're going to highlight the pressure we're going to shift. In this case, we're going to move the LV so it's the right time. So we shift the LV. That's how it has to be done on this system. We shifted it. So now the LV descending limb bisects the V wave peak. This is the standard. Now we have back to 1.9 again. So 1.9 seems to be the right gradient. And oh, look, our mean gradient was 10, but now it's 7 or 8. So optimal timing will change things so you get optimal results. And now you can see that there is a gradient peak here and a gradient peak here. This is your E. This is your A from your Doppler. You should be seeing both. We didn't see that when we were not shifted. So if we go back to when we were not shifted, look at that. There's no A wave. This guy has atrial pacing and ventricular capture here. He's got a dual chamber pacemaker. He's in sinus rhythm. He's supposed to have an atrial kick. And his Doppler showed an E and an A. So immediately you should look at this and think it's messed up. Here's the corrected, shifted. Now you have your E and your A. All right. Next, we're going to see if we have any other recordings. So I go to the yellow arrow and look at other pressure recordings. This one says PA and LV. That's not going to work. Wait a minute. Is this a PA? You have your QRS here, but the spiky thing is here. This big spiky thing can't be pulmonary artery because it's in diastole. So this is actually another wedge that was labeled incorrectly. How are we going to fix that? So what we're going to do is we're going to go up and click on this thing that says PA, and we're going to change it to PW. Okay, now it's correctly labeled as another wedge LV tracing with lots of good beats to choose from. Notice that we have artifact in the middle, but all the beats are selected. Here's a red and green. That shows you what's selected. If you don't see red and green, every single beat on the picture is included. We want to exclude that middle beat. So we're going to click and drag some beats that we like. Let's say over there on the right. Okay, now we picked at least 3 good beats here. This one's cut off, will not be included. And we don't see any gradient highlighted. We hit the valve picture button here. That gives you the gradient. Now we have the gradient. It says the mean is 10.8, but we thought it was 8. What about the timing? Timing is off. The wedge is too late, and there's no A wave on this picture, so timing is wrong. We have to shift it. So we're going to select the LV pressure and hit the arrow keys on our keyboard and shift things around till we have correct timing. Now we have another 8 millimeter mean gradient. Valve area 1.9, same as the other one. So we have 2 good beats now. And you can see that on this analysis package, under the gradient tab, there are now 2 choices. You have to tell the machine which one to use. Both are very close, but sometimes they're not. How are we going to do that? You're going to hit the button that says valve. After you hit the valve button, you will see a change. Over here, we hit valve button. It says pick a gradient that you want. Pick the one you want. Once you've picked it, it goes into the calculation. That's what goes into the final Cath report. You make sure you've got the correct output, the optimal beats chosen, the timing was correct. You picked the beat that you needed to use, plug that in, and now you have the best possibly accurate valve area you can get based on the data you have at hand. And that's it.